this lecture, I will give you an overview of the demand planning process. The demand planning is the first phase of the supply chain planning process, and its results are the input of all the other phases of the process. Demand is in fact a fundamental input to size the inventory, to plan the distribution of the goods, to determine the master production schedule in the production phase, to decide the quantities of components and materials to be bought in the procurement phase. The demand planning is a recursive process that needs to be fed by information coming from the other planning activities. In addition to data like past values of demand, acquired orders, forecasted orders, the input of the demand planning is made of the output of other phases, like for example the quantity manufactured or the inventory levels, since they can strongly impact the future demand. The main objectives of the demand planning process are both forecast the future demand by using all the available information and manage the demand. If forecasting is obvious, managing is not. More in detail, managing the demand means influence the future demand with specific actions, like for example promotional campaigns, price policies, and so on and so forth. This could mean increase the demand or make it more steady, in case we want to manage possible production or distribution capacity shortages. Forecasting means to produce a demand plan, which is the output, applying the proper methodologies and models, given the specific objectives and the input. Let's analyze more in detail each single element. The objectives, that means why do we use the forecast for? Some examples could be support the distribution planning, define the parameters to manage the materials, size the production capacity. The inputs, they can be many and of different types. Some examples are received orders, time series of past demand, general and industry trends, actions of competitors, causal factors, that means those factors that affect the demand, but also market experience. Tools and methodologies. There are both quantitative and qualitative techniques. Quantitative techniques can be based on past data, time series, or can try to find the relationships between some external factors and the demand. Qualitative methodologies try to predict demand based on the knowledge, the experience, the competencies of experts and/or the feedbacks from the market. The output strongly depends on the forecasting problem, which is the combination of object of the forecasting, that means to understand what is forecasted, like for example the number of orders, the number of pieces, the value of the sales, which is the turnover, and as a consequence with which unit of measure. That could be cubic meters, pallet loads, or cases, or euros. Then product aggregation level, that means to decide the aggregation level to be taken into account among, for example, product, version, item, and SKU. For example, if we do consider the Coca-Cola company, we have different products, like for example Coke, Fanta, Nestea, or Powerade, and if we do consider Coke, we have different versions like Original Taste, Zero, Light, and if we do consider Zero, we have different items, can, PET, bottles, etc. And if we take into account cans, we can have different SKUs, 4 can, 6 can, and so on and so forth. We decide to forecast the demand at a product level when we want to design the capacity of production resources, at a version level when we want to plan the procurement of the raw materials, by item if we want to plan the bottling activities, by SKU if we want to support the inventory management. Then we have the geographical aggregation, that is the level of detail with whom we want to make the forecast. It could be the single shop, the city, the area, the country, according again to the specific objectives of the forecasting process. Then we have planning horizon. Here we have to decide mainly 3 things. The forecasting horizon, that means how far we will push the forecasting activity every time we conduct it. It depends on the constraints that we have. For example, if we have to size the production capacity and the minimum time required to change it is 1 year, acquire or remove production resources, the forecasting horizon has to be at least 1 year. The time bucket, it is the time window for which the demand is forecasted. It could be the day, the week, the month, and so on and so forth. It depends on the level of detail needed. The frequency, how often the forecasting process is carried out. Let's close with a few examples to make it clearer how the output changes according to the objective. If the objective is to size the production capacity of a plant, the product aggregation level is very high. That means the family of products can be manufactured in that plant. The time bucket is the month. The horizon could vary from 2 to 5 years. If the objective is to define the master production schedule, the product aggregation level is the production family. That means products are aggregated based on the features that affect the choice of the production system. The time bucket is the week, which is the typical bucket for a master production schedule. The horizon could vary from 3 to 6 months. If the objective is to define the operative schedule, the product aggregation level is the SKU. The time bucket is the day, since the activity is conducted on a daily basis, and the horizon could vary from 1 to 2 weeks. Finally, just a couple of words about the accuracy of the forecasting process. For now, we say only that it depends on the aggregation level in terms of time, product, geographical areas. The higher the level of aggregation, the higher the accuracy due to the compensation of the errors. The anticipation, how much time before the forecast is made, the closer, the better accuracy.